How has your hands-on experience across every part of the real estate process shaped your actual leadership style?
I would say the thing that fascinates me the most is that in the residential dominion, and I'm learning
Now, you mentioned homeownership leads to personal and financial stability.
as a mortgage broker. I understand that if I'm trying to sell a piece of property in a condominium complex, for example, where it's just a human psyche. When someone owns something, they have a best. Right now we're in a time where nobody wants to commit to anything. But when you don't commit to anything, you don't build anything. You don't have any.
What would you say are the most common misconceptions you see among new home buyers or investors?
Ignorance. That's a misconception, generally not knowing what you're getting into. Sometimes I think on one hand, people tend to be too.
Let's talk about Women's Wealth Network. What inspired you to launch it, and what kind of impact are you seeing in women's financial empowerment?
Let me give you an example. And I just learned a really interesting statistic in commercial real estate. 97% of all commercial real estate is owned.
How can boards and executive teams better support financial literacy and wealth building for those types of groups?
There's a lot of support now. It depends on the orientation and who the person wanting to.
What advice do you give to professionals, especially women, who want to step into real estate or become financially independent through property investment?
I would say definitely just get yourself.
Welcome to another episode of Birdseye Leadership Talks, where we explore bold leadership, strategic growth, and the journeys that shape today's most impactful professionals. I'm your host, Martin Rovinsky, CEO of Birdseye, and today's guest is a dynamic leader at the intersection of real estate, entrepreneurship, and community empowerment. Ginger Faith is a seasoned real estate broker, a builder, Airbnb superhost, and the founder of Women's Wealth Network. With a real estate career that spans nearly 3 decades, from mortgage brokering to luxury home development, Ginger has made it her mission to not only build homes, but build wealth and stability for others. She's deeply committed to educating real estate investors, empowering women financially, and strengthening communities through ownership. Ginger, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And before we get started, you're in Livermore, right?
You're right. It's at the heart of Silicon Valley,
Yeah. No, I
California.
know exactly where it's at. I lived in Lafayette for a while, and I used to, ages ago when I was in college, I worked at, what's that gym out there? It used to be Amador, and then it changed names. Amador
Amador,
Valley,
Amador Valley.
Athletic, Club Sport. That's it.
Oh, Club Sport. Okay. Now Club Sport's changed again.
Well,
It's
there
the
you
Bay
go.
Club
See?
now. Now it's the Bay Club. So you were like way back in the day.
Yeah, I'm aging myself, but
Yeah,
yes,
because
way
I
back.
remember Club Sport, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. So long,
Yeah.
long time ago. But yeah, I'm very familiar with the area.
Well, it's
Cool.
changed a lot since you've been here, probably.
I'm sure it was growing when I left.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you leave?
uh, I left for Vegas 5 years ago, but even before that, oh my gosh, it's been at least 15 years,
Yeah, that's when Livermore really took off, right around 2006, just really catapulting forward.
right before 2008. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about your journey and entrepreneurial mindset. I mean, you've been in real estate since 1994, if I have that right.
Yes, that's when I
And
bought my first
okay,
six family.
okay. So sounds like family drew you to the industry, or what has drawn you to the industry, and what has kept you so passionate about it over the years?
Well, the passion has changed. It's ebbed and it flowed, and sometimes it's just aggravating, and I wonder what I'm thinking about. Like, what am I doing? But there's got to be something that continues moving you forward. And I think there's two things. I'm a servant at heart, and there's always ways of helping people. And once you get momentum going, you just keep going. And I know I'm making a positive difference in people's lives in what I do. So that's something that keeps me going forward. there was a time where I thought I was wanted to take a break, and I wanted to be a day trader. And I was miserable because I was sitting in front of a computer all day. I wasn't interacting with people. And I realized I really need to be collaborating with people, and I need to be helping people. And once you realize that that's who you are, then you settle back into what works.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You're a people person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
you've
started getting involved. You asked me how I got involved.
yeah.
It was really crazy. I was actually a minister in a church, and I wanted to retire so I could devote my life to my ministry. And so, in order to do that, I read a book, Nothing Down by Robert Allen, and he said, "Hey, if you buy one single family home per year for the next 10 years, then pay them off, you'll retire." And so I thought, well, why don't I buy a six family and then I'll get a jump start. And that's how I got involved.
That's awesome. So you went from being a mortgage broker to being a builder and broker owner. How has your hands-on experience across every part of the real estate process shape your actual leadership style?
What an amazing question. That's a great question. I would say the thing that fascinates me the most is that in the residential dominion, and I'm learning commercial, and it's a completely different animal. Very exciting animal, but very intense. But in the residential world, what I find that there's almost no question that I can't answer for somebody if they want to get started or they're having a roadblock or it like amazes me what I know until I get weird questions from people and I say, "Oh, I know the answer to that. No problem." And they're like, "Oh my God, we've been laboring over this for 6 months," So that's fun because you recognize that if you keep working and working and stacking your skill set, that you become more valuable. And that's satisfying. It's satisfying to know that you're growing and that you've grown when you look back on your journey. You know, I have a funny story. I was doing a triathlon one time and we were at the swimming part, and I decided to do a backstroke at one point, and another gal was doing a backstroke too. And she said, "I never realized how far I've gone, how far I've come until I look back."
Back.
And it was so funny as she said that, we were looking at the shoreline like, wow, we came pretty far, and then kept going. And so sometimes briefly, I don't normally look backwards, I look forwards, but once in a while it's good to look back and realize, like, okay, I've from where I was, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm definitely better than where I was, and
Yeah.
more progressive.
Reflection's a good thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned home ownership leads to personal and financial stability. Why do you believe it plays such a critical role in building stronger communities?
You have such great questions. It's amazing. Yeah, well, it's really well known that when people just rent, there's certain levels, communities where there are renters. As a mortgage broker, I understand that if I'm trying to sell a piece of property in a condominium complex, for example, where there's a bunch of renters. Okay, depending on the ratio, the banks will say, "Well, we're not going to loan there because that's a non-warrantable condo," is the industry term, right? So what they know, and money is the banks have money smarts, money wisdom. They realize that renters, as a rule, are not going to care for a property as well as a homeowner, right?
Sure.
And so experience shows over the decades, over the millenniums, that when someone has ownership in something, they have a stake in it, they have a pride, they have a level of investment, and they tend to keep things better. When they don't have an ownership interest, they tend to let things go, or they tend to not treat things as highly. Of course, you can always say that there are exceptions. That's absolutely true. There are renters. Thank God there are renters who take good care of their places. Otherwise, a lot of us would be in trouble. But generally speaking, that's the case. So that's just been known, and why it's just a human psyche. When someone owns something, they have a vested interest in it.
Sure.
That's why commitment of any sort is valuable for the human psyche. Right now we're in a time where nobody wants to commit to anything. But when you don't commit to anything, you don't build anything. You don't have any investment in anything.
Yeah.
And so the strength of the communities are weaker. So investing, it actually strengthens you as a person.
That's actually a great point. It just made me think of our company, Birdseye. Um, we give executives, not only do we match them with board positions or advisory work, but we give them access to education and executive branding, kind of what we're doing here right now. But it's funny that you said that, because when they pay for those services, we can see they get really engaged and they're growing themselves and they're
Yes.
learning, obviously. So there's a lot of growth. But the ones that don't engage in those services seem like they just want to have that quick turnaround, or they're out. They don't want to grow. It's
Mm.
a interesting community takeaway, I guess you can say. All right, sorry, back on topic. What would you say are the most common misconceptions you see among new home buyers or investors, and how do you help them break through those?
Ignorance. That's a misconception, generally not knowing what you're getting into, right? Sometimes I think on one hand, people tend to be too fearful. They just see all, these ghosts because they don't know what they don't know. On the other hand, they can, like I was when I was starting, I had the boldness that frequently accompanies stupidity. So you can have so much fear that you don't do anything, or you can have so much boldness that you get yourself in over your skis. And so there's the challenge of just starting, and that's where you need advisors. Now in the commercial world, I've got my advisors, because I am not, to their level. They've got 30 years experience, 10, 15, 20 years experience. So I rely on them. In the residential world that I'm very familiar with for, same thing, many decades, um, this is where I make sure that the buyers, investors, whoever I'm dealing with, have their eyes wide open. And there are pitfalls, and and it's a little concerning when you see people who are so bold that you can see that, oh my, that's a train wreck waiting to happen. But sometimes you really can't tell somebody because there's ego involved, and you just figure, well, they have to figure things out themselves. But lack of education, I'll give you an example, a simple example. Somebody that I know did not use my services when they were purchasing a piece of property in Antioch, not about 40 minutes away from here.
Yep.
And he had no idea that there were mellow roofs on his tax bill. Now, if he had worked with me, he would have known that, because that's one of those things I educate people. But what happens is when you have a brand new, beautiful community, they're building roads, they're building infrastructure, sometimes schools, sometimes fire stations, and all of those are added into the tax structure of the new
Yeah.
community. Now, you and I know this, but going back to what you were saying about new investors, right? It's all in the paperwork, that you're signing. It's like, oh yeah, it's there in the paperwork that your taxes are going to be, 15,000 a year, and you were expecting just a 1.25%, but you didn't factor that in because it wasn't clearly articulated. And of course, there's always the salivation of the beautiful home, and
Yep.
like, oh, and then once they're in it, and they're like, oh, this is such a good price, and for this, yada yada. And all of a sudden, he calls me and goes, hey Ginger, how come? And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Like, that's what happens, right? So greed, salivation, fear, I think that all of these are realities when you have new investors. I was just telling a friend of mine yesterday, I said, we have to beware of FOMO, fear of missing out. Someone, dangles a carrot, and you have to be like, oh. Like I want that investment. I want that return on investment. I want that. But it's the seasoned investors understand that it's just numbers, and what do you what exactly are you what exactly is your outcome, what's important to you about this transaction, and does this transaction fit what your outcome is. And if that's a beautiful home for you and your family, your trophy home, your kids in a right school because you want them to have things you didn't have, beautiful. You know what your outcome is. You know this school system is going to be the best, and
Yep.
they're going to advance. But if it comes to return on investment and that's the only issue, then it's a different strategy altogether. And so curtailing your fear of missing out, which is greed, and then curtailing being so fearful that you do nothing, that's the two-edged sword in real estate.
Got it. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about Women's Wealth Network. What inspired you to launch it, and what kind of impact are you seeing in women's financial empowerment?
Let me give you an example. And I just learned a really interesting statistic in commercial real estate. 97% of all commercial real estate is owned by men. So 3% are owned by women. And of that 3%, only 1.5% are owned by active investors. The other 1.5% have inherited by
Wow.
either divorce or death. They've inherited the commercial property and they usually want out. So there's a huge gap in this arena. Now, when I first got involved in real estate in the 90s and I went to my first seminar, one of the guys actually asked me if I was there looking for a husband because I was the only woman in the room. So now that's changed over the last 2 decades, right? Really, with YouTube and bigger pockets and podcasts like this, and fortune builders. There's a lot more now. There are more women, but it's really statistically there's not a lot of women, but there's a huge need for women to become educated. Now, today prices are challenging. Prices are difficult in everything. Inflation's real. We're dealing with real issues with inflation and contracting. And dealing with contractors as a woman, these are real issues, but they need to be addressed. And then, classically, real estate is still a great investment. And over the long term, if you can buy properly with what my team calls a bulletproof basis, which means you have to go through other things that are not safe to buy. But if you can educate yourself and then buy things and learn in the process, then still real estate, for the tax deductions that you get and for the generational wealth that you can accumulate and also for the education that you can have, it's very important for women to get involved, at least on some level, in real estate. They don't have to necessarily become a mogul. And I have a new book that I'm creating right now. It's really cool. It's going to be great, but it's addressing the issues that women like. What are our needs and what are our desires, which are different from men, and how can intelligently purchase real estate fit the bill for that?
Well, that's awesome. Good luck on that.
Yeah, thank
I know,
you.
I know it takes a lot to write a book. I just finished my second one.
Oh yeah, it does. It does.
It's work. So speaking of those underrepresented groups, how can boards and executive teams better support financial literacy and wealth building for those types of groups?
What kind of boards would that be?
Executive teams, I don't know, maybe a real estate board. I mean, is there any kind of support besides obviously your organization?
There's a lot of support now, and it depends on the orientation and what it is that the person learning, the person wanting to educate themselves, that what do they want, right? What's their orientation? So I would say the National Association of Realtors would be a place to check out. I do recommend people get their license, just for the education part of that. And then there's a lot of real estate investment groups by meetup.com. I have one every month as well. And I would say go on to meetup.com to educate yourself and find out who's doing what, right? And then even Fortune Builders has like groups for kids. And my team, my commercial team, has every Sunday they do a workshop for kids
Oh,
on
nice.
Sunday for free, teaching them how to invest in commercial real estate. And that's a free. So if anybody wanted that, they could contact me for their kids. I would connect them with the guy who does that. And it goes into the ABCs of like how to buy commercial real estate. So like 12, 13-year-olds are learning how to do that, which is unbelievably cool. So there are resources out there. I would say that those, Fortune Builders is one, real estate investment groups, and depending on the age range, finding mentors that way.
That's awesome. Skipping over to a little bit of talk about leadership, what would you say are the lessons that you've learned building homes and what can apply directly to building a business or leading an organization?
In building homes, I would say just watching your numbers is really, really important. And getting a team that you trust is number two. I say if you can do that, if you can get a team you trust and know your numbers, you're going to be okay. Once you violate those two rules, boy, you're going to get yourself into so much trouble. And I've seen it. I've seen it over and over again. People who are really smart, they let they kind of let things go. They don't, you kind of have to really manage. You have to,
Yeah.
I'm not saying micromanage, but kind of, you have to really be on, have your eyes on the ball, so to speak. So yeah, I would say that. Well, know your numbers. And so what does that mean? Well, that means, very basic um, you know, um, here's the simplistic answer: the bathtub theory of economics. You're either you want to plug up the holes and you want to add water. There you go. So once you have the holes or you're not adding water, you don't get a bathtub that's full. So in your world, if you want a deal that's good, if you want a business that's good, if you want a household that's you manage well, you got to plug up the holes and add more water. Figure out ways of doing that. And that applies across the board. And how do you do that? By having people you trust, by having good team members that you're paying appropriate wages, but not too much, and you're getting a value for what you're investing in them. And then shopping for bargains, of course. I'm really good with shopping for bargains with my Airbnbs, like most women are. And then knowing, what you're in, what's your bulletproof basis on the property, and then what's your exit, and where's the gap. And I say a 35% gap is reasonable because that's your safety. And that could happen in different ways. For example, we had this one property we bought for 2 million. We completely tore it to the ground. We put in 1.25 million and we sold it for 4.8. But what was interesting about that, when we were evaluating how much square footage, I insisted that we add another 500 square feet on the back. Number one, because the property supported it and the county would support it. But number two, that 500 extra square feet at $1,200 per square foot, that was an extra margin of safety, right? So I'm more safety. My partner was more about uh, big, big, big numbers, and I'm about safety, right? And so somewhere in the between, we did well, right? So I thought that those are the things to extrapolate, and I like to bring things to the very simple for me to understand like the bathtub theory of economics. Very simple. I get that.
That's awesome. Now let's talk a little bit more about real estate and not only the future, but looking at the past. Obviously, you can look at the past and predict some future, or you got lots of years of experience. You've been through obviously the ups and downs of real estate, ups and downs of home loan rates. We had the 2008 crash. I was actually a broker at that time. I did a lot of refis. And so I experienced 2008 completely destroying a lot of me and my friends in that business. And
I
then,
was
of
mortgage
course,
broker too.
yeah, we'll see. So you get it.
Yep.
Um, and then, of course, it bounces back. And then all of a sudden, we have very low rates. Everybody's enjoying nice, great home loans on bigger home loans for smaller payments. And now again, we're back in the rates being higher, but the property values are still on the rise. How do you see all that? Any feedback through the years of experience, and what do you think is going to lead to the future of that?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not an
No,
economist, but
I get it.
I'm an opportunist. So I just watch and I figure out what the strategies are, right? So I'm a big believer in affirmative prayer and affirmations and affirming what it is that you want. And that happened in 2008. I had everything was very clear what was going on, but it wasn't clear. In hindsight, it was very clear what was going on. But I, like you, was very much impacted. All my clients were coming to me and they were in massive distress. And I did positive affirmations in really what it is I wanted to see and what it is I wanted to accomplish. And I got through that brilliantly, which was amazing to me because it was 6 months of complete chaos. And then I found my way by focusing on what it was I wanted beyond the turmoil and beyond the storm. And so I'm a big believer in speaking what it is that you want through any storm. And now I believe that we are having definitely storms in the commercial market. Now, I just found out this morning, I'm working right now on a property in Sacramento. We just purchased a beautiful, used to be a hotel in downtown Sacramento, and now we're converting it. It was already converted, but we're stabilizing it. It's like 60% vacant. And so I'm looking at another property down the street and evaluating it. But what's happening right now, the one we just bought was owned by the bank, and we worked the numbers down really, really low. We got a phenomenal deal on it. Now, this other one, the guy's in a lot of distress. And I just got off the phone with the title company because I was doing some research. And he said, and he focuses on distressed assets. He said, Ginger, there's a lot of banks right now that are making inquiries the into these distressed assets. But what was happening in the past 2 years is, when the rates came up, the banks are trying to kick the can down the road and they're trying to work out. They're doing workouts. Like, how can we work this out? He said they're getting to the point now they're not wanting to work it out anymore. And that's as of this morning. We're in 2025 right now. And I thought that was very telling. So we're going to be seeing a lot more because basically we had this meteoric rise in commercial real estate. We know office was challenged because of the pandemic, but other assets as well were challenged. And now the rates have gone up so high. Now in commercial, you don't have 30-year fixed loans. They always recast after 5 years,
Okay.
right? Max. So right now you've got these, they were 3%. Now they're up to 7% plus whatever they are with the commercial. And now the prices are staying high. So what's that going to mean? They're going to have to come down. They already have an office substantially, but that's going to happen also with the sector. So again, I'm not an economist, but I'm just watching what's going on. When you're on the pulse all the time, you see what's happening. Now, of course, with tariffs, we get the tariff wars, right? So we don't know, but maybe there are people, like Michael Burry who can forecast, and that's awesome. Follow them, but I'm an opportunist, and so when I see things, I focus on what it is that I want, and I also, interesting, coincidentally, in I didn't start. I started buying and flipping distressed property back in the day, back in the '08. That was eventually what my affirmations brought me to. But I didn't start until 2009. And if I had started earlier than that, it would have been dangerous because the bottom of the market was July 2009. That's when Warren Buffett pushed in a bunch of money back into the market. We had hit bottom in the stock market, and then we started to recover. Now, I didn't know that was the bottom like Warren Buffett did, but what I did do, I didn't do my first flip until 2009, in December of 2009. So I do believe in there's this intuition and there's a cosmic energy. If you focus on what you want and what the outcome, what your goals are, that the universe supports you in miraculous ways that are beyond your own conscious mind figuring it out kind of persona. There's something that bigger And I have faith in that. And so, as I evaluate commercial property, I stay focused on what I want, what my objectives are. I'm very clear that's my job. And, and I believe everybody should be doing that. I really believe focus on what you want and then don't deviate from that. And then just watch how the universe unfolds and benefits you. So
Awesome.
that's my my philosophy on that.
No,
Over
that's
30
awesome.
years I've seen it, so.
Yeah. So you've already given us a lot of advice, but anything else you can think of? What advice do you give to professionals, especially women, who want to step into real estate or become financially independent through property investment?
I would say definitely just get yourself organized and educated, and start finding out what's out there. Know your market. Decide where you want to be, first of all. I think that's really, really important. If you love the area that you're living in, then start working your neighborhood. If you don't, go somewhere where you can love being there, because real estate is very specific. It's very location specific. Once you know your market, then you will find opportunities, and just be very, very disciplined and focused, and educate yourself. Absolutely educate yourself. Oh,
Awesome.
oh, and beware of sharks.
Oh yeah, they're out there.
They're out there, especially, yeah. The bigger the money, the bigger the sharks.
Yeah, true that. Before I wrap up, how can our listeners get hold of you if they have questions or advice they're looking for? What's the best way to get hold of you?
The best way would be Facebook. Just message me on Facebook, or just look me up, Ginger Crystal Faith. I'm all over the web. I think I'm the only Ginger Crystal Faith in real estate, so pretty easy. My phone number and email is out there.
Awesome. Very cool. Ginger, thank you so much for a thoughtful and inspiring conversation. Your journey is a powerful example of what it means to lead with purpose, build with vision, and empower others to own not just property, but possibility. At Birdseye, we believe leadership starts with building stability, whether it's in boardroom or in our communities. Your work embodies both, and we're grateful you've shared your story and mission with us today. For our listeners, if you're looking to invest in real estate, build long-term financial resilience, or empower your team with wealth building knowledge, be sure to follow Ginger Crystal Faith, and learn more about Golden Canyon Properties and the Women's Wealth Network. Until next time, I'm Martin Ravinsky. This is Birdseye Leadership Talks. Keep leading with purpose and keep building what matters. Thank you, Ginger.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Talks. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful conversations with industry leaders. Your support means a lot to us.